You can use the polar array command to create multiple copies of part of your drawing in a polar pattern. Basically, a number of copies rotated around a reference point. To use this function, you must first select the geometry that you wish to include in the array. If you don't do this, you will see this error message. We'll select this small square and centre line that we have already drawn here. Now when we click on the button, the ribbon displays the array options. So here you can see we have two options: the number of copies and a tick box for rotating the copies which is currently on. We will come back to that later. Let's change the number of copies to 6. Now if we look at the command prompt, it's asking us for a center point of the array. This is the point by which the items in the array are rotated around. Normally this would be at a predefined point. In this case it is the end of the center line here. A dynamic line is now drawn from the center point to the cursor position. This dynamic line represents the start angle of the array. This therefore is where the array angle is measured from, so a sensible point would be anywhere along the center line. Let's use this point. Next is the point to array to, effectively defining an angle of the array. Logically, we need to switch to polar input to define a polar position, so we press this button. A polar point requires a distance and an angle from the current position. Normally, you would now see a dynamic length dimension as well as the dynamic angle dimension that you can see here. However, in this case, the distance is irrelevant. We just need an angle. Let's just type in a distance to show this. You now see the dynamic line is restricted to 50 long. So it's the angle we need to set. And rather than type it in, we can set it to 60 using the dynamic dimensions and click to accept. Let's do that again, but this time we'll use the direct input feature available in the Plus, Pro and Architectural versions. We'll undo the last array and once again, same procedure, select Geometry, click the Array button and select the center point. The last input mode was polar, so we can press F7 to switch to snap mode, and now click on the reference point. We can now press F9 to switch back to polar input. We don't need to do this, but we will, just to show the dynamic angle dimension. So it's just an angle that we need. And because we're using dynamic input, we can just type in 60. Watch it appear next to the cursor as soon as you type, and then press enter. Finally, let's array just the square and not the center line. If we turn off rotate copies and type in the angle, you can see that each copy of the square retains its original orientation.